Alien shapeshifters are among us, and today we even have a confession from a real-life reptilian shapeshifter in this video. So when it comes to the concept of reptilian aliens, there's a lot to unpack. I don't think we'll ever know everything, but let's try. Question for you: what's your take on shape-shifting reptilians? Let me know in the comments, and let's peel back some layers of information together. One common belief when it comes to these shapeshifters is that they control the world. When you think of famous celebrities, politicians, and leaders, it's hard to believe that they're normal human beings like us. They just seem to be larger than life, better than the average person. But what if they weren't humans at all? What if they were actually 15 feet tall, reptilian-like shapeshifters from outer space who came to Earth and slowly took over our governments and entertainment industry for the sole purpose of controlling the human race? These reptiles control us by creating wars and mindless entertainment to keep us distracted. Famous reptiles include Queen Elizabeth, presidential candidates, CEOs, global banking leaders, and even celebrities like Justin Bieber and Katy Perry. And hey, maybe even I'm one. If you don't believe me, we've literally done videos around here that feature real alien shapeshifters caught on camera with the actual footage that I recommend you check out. These reptiles are also believed to make up the Illuminati and can take on human forms by creating vibrations that give us the illusion that they're human. This theory first became popular in 1998 after a man named David Icke published his book called The Biggest Secret, and that book still remains popular to this day. Along with the book, information about this theory is also widely available on the internet. We're talking videos, forums, news articles, they've got it all. So how did this theory start? The basis of reptilian elite theory is that in ancient times, a group of advanced reptiles from the Alpha Draconis star system came to Earth and infiltrated the governments of the ancient civilizations in order to control all the humans, and became their rulers and bred with other humans to form crossbreeds so that their DNA can infiltrate the minds of humans. So with their DNA inside our systems, they can control us by making us dumber, slower, and weaker, and therefore easier to control. Think cult mindsets. Evidence for this reptilian DNA in us comes from the fact that in the early stages, developing embryos look a lot like reptiles. Also, the oldest part of our brain, the one that controls the most primal functions and instincts, it's the reptilian brain, because it is made of the structures that the reptilian brain consists of, which are the brainstem and cerebellum. Okay, yes, there is an argument to be made that these could just be the result of the fact that we originally evolved from reptiles, since they were the first animals that existed on Earth. So naturally, we would have parts of our body that are similar to theirs. But they could have been reptilian aliens. Another piece of evidence for this theory comes from the fact that many religions in ancient civilizations depict some sort of reptilian god or goddess. Which, hello. Michael Barkin, professor of political science at Syracuse University, wants to suggest the idea that a reptilian conspiracy originated in the fiction of Conan the Barbarian creator Robert E. Howard in his story The Shadow Kingdom, which was published in Weird Tales in August of 1929. The story drew on the theosophical ideas of the lost worlds of Atlantis and Lemuria, particularly Helen Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine written in 1888, with its reference to dragon men who once had a mighty civilization on a Lemurian continent. Those serpent men were described as humanoids with human bodies and snakeheads who were able to imitate humans at will, and who lived in underground passages and used their shape-changing and mind control abilities to infiltrate humanity. Clark Ashton Smith used Howard's serpent men in his stories, as well as themes from Lovecraft, and all together, that's how we got the Cthulhu mythos. In the 1940s, American occultist Maurice Sturrill, also known as Claude Dawkins, wrote a pamphlet entitled Mysteries of the Gobi that described a serpent race with bodies like man but heads like a great snake, and an ability to take human form. Now these creatures also appeared in the poem The Emerald Tablets, and that's where he referred to the Emerald Tablets being written by Thoth, an Atlantean priest king. When you think about it, yes, this sounds like a lot of fiction and science fiction, but it all had to come from somewhere. Somebody had to know. So if somebody knew anything, and it's repeated enough over history, then there's gotta be some sort of truth to it. Historian Edward Guimont has argued that the reptilian theory, particularly David Icke's version, possibly drew from earlier pseudo-heuristical legends developed through the colonization of Africa. And Icke's theory that these reptilian beings once ruled in the open and created impossible structures such as the Pyramid of Egypt, well, it's pretty plausible. Look, he's written like several books where he provides a lot of evidence and explanation. Now, if we were to think about when reptilian aliens really came into focus in the world, it was very popular in the early 2000s. And there's a lot of folks to this day that we're pretty sure it is a thing. I think like 12 million Americans agree with me on this, and even more worldwide. So, How do you spot a reptilian shapeshifter in the wild? A simple way to prove the existence of lizard people is by recognizing the ones among us. Philip Bump's article, How to Spot the Reptilians Running the US Government, provides a helpful summary of common characteristics. Low red fluid pressure, random scars, a great love for space and science, green, hazel, or blue eyes that change color, and more. Further evidence exists in the form of video. Slowing down or pausing can sometimes reveal a glimpse of individual shapeshifting. I know there was a video of Justin Bieber where he went viral, and you see his eyes shift and turn reptile-like. Now some folks might be thinking like, why? How? Well, it's hard for reptiles to keep their true selves hidden through the camera. We've seen it with the former queen. We've seen it with Secret Service. For example, the Top 10s channel discusses Ike's findings of lizard people and referencing the Bible passages. For example, let's think through history. A serpent tricking Eve into eating the apple. Satan's characterization as a serpent or dragon-like being. Interpretations of passages in the Bible seem to play a large role in, what we think. Alien abduction narratives sometimes allege contact with reptilian creatures, and one of the earliest reports was that of Ashland, Nebraska police officer Herbert Schreimer, who under hypnosis recalled being taken aboard a UFO back in 1967 by what? Humanoid beings with a slightly reptilian appearance who wore a winged serpent emblem on the left side of their chest. So, how do you know if you're a reptilian shapeshifter? Well, back in 2019, a fellow by the name of Louis Barrows said he recently discovered that he's one of them. So ever since he was young, he had the ability to travel to many dimensions. And when he was young, he didn't know what was going on. So he tried to block it from his mind and not do it because it was really weird. He tried explaining it to his family, but they just couldn't understand. So he stopped talking about it. And for the most part, the out-of-mind technique sort of worked for him. Until he got about to be the age of 26. Suddenly, all the abilities returned, and to cope with the unknown, he turned to substance use, and not in a good way. Poor schmuck thought he had completely lost all sense of reality, and overdid things, substances, at least half a dozen times. Imagine if you found out you could suddenly travel to dimensions you couldn't understand, and when you tried to explain it to people, they acted like you just grew a second head. Yeah, I bet you developed some unhealthy coping mechanisms as well. So after detoxing, Louis wound up in a crazy motorcycle accident. And when he was in recovery, he started traveling planes again, even during waking hours. One night in particular, something felt really off to him, and he tried to record his journey on his cell phone. What did he encounter? It was a presence that felt so terrifying and intimidating that it was almost unexplainable. At one point, he found himself looking into a mirror, and it was as he was capturing the video that he realized he was shapeshifting. His reflection appeared to be about 7 feet tall, when in reality he's only like 5'7". And since he continues to travel, at least 4 times a week, he's learned a lot. Turns out reptilians have their own secret ways of communicating with each other and manipulate humans to keep them in the dark about the truth. Apparently one of the methods can be accomplished through the TV, and it's a common way for reptilians to send out subliminal messages to humans, similar to how it happened in the Josie and the Pussycats movie. Now with this entire confession, Louis admits that he's scared, he's confused about everything, and he knows what he's saying is a sensitive subject. He's very aware that reptilian shapeshifters are supposed to keep their identity secret for safety, but he's determined to prove the legends about aliens being bad people who just want to control humanity, they're wrong. He uses himself and his friends as an example of people who just want to exist in peace. Now that he's a little more aware of his powers, he's been able to use them to identify other shapeshifters in the world. He's adamant that the Catholic view of Earth, starting from God, is false, since the aliens from various galaxies migrated to Earth after losing their own homes. The shapeshifters view Earth as their home that they share with everything else they created here. The legend of God came to be because aliens wanted humans to have hope, a sense of survival, and general outlines of what life should be. He emphasizes that people should be more aware of the world around them, and then they'll understand. Granted, if you do see a shapeshifter, maybe don't make it obvious that you've seen one, just to be safe. They don't like being spotted. And finally for today, let's talk about mind control manipulation. So, ever feel like someone's watching you? Well, if you're like me and you understand that reptilian shapeshifters are out there, you might be onto something. These creatures are said to possess advanced psychic abilities, allowing them to control their minds, manipulate our thoughts, even implant false memories. Some folks think that these reptilian shapeshifters aren't pulling the strings from just behind the scenes. They're pulling the strings inside our heads too. Yeah, you heard me right. They have these crazy abilities that let them mess with our minds. They can implant thoughts. They can manipulate our emotions without us even realizing it. It's like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's real. And what's scary about it is you might not know what's happening. Think of Mandela effects. How can you tell if someone's a shapeshifter in disguise? Or if their eyes are just a little weird? It's like living in a real life episode of The X-Files. But there's nobody to save me. And that's it for me once again, folks. I've been Alexa, the resident ooky spooky girly, and if you enjoyed my ramblings today, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you aren't already, hit the bell for more shapeshifting content from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.